Hey guys, this is Rick coming at you with Weed to No Basis, the podcast for all things cannabis business related. Are you an entrepreneur? Have something you wanted to create, something you wanted to bring to life in the cannabis industry? Maybe you've always wanted to partake in one of the biggest industries in modern day history. This is the podcast to listen to.
So in terms of the bottles, no, because I was kind of confused here. I'd like to carry it.
Yeah, I'm like,
But for these consumers, is isolate and full spectrum. Can you expand a little bit on that? And which one's like better in your opinion, I guess?
I'll back up just a moment too. So people come into our store and they're like, okay, I know nothing about CBD. It comes from marijuana, right? What is this industrial hemp conversation? Full spectrum, it contains no THC, right? All CBD should be THC free, and I keep company with pretty, smart individuals. I go to a lot of events in, many states, legal, recreational, not legal and recreational. So I try to accumulate a lot of knowledge that is about creating what I'm about to share with you. So don't take my word for it, but this is kind of what I believe from what I've absorbed from the people that I've talked to who are actually participating in this community. So also gentlemen, please feel free to tell me if I'm wrong. Cannabis is like a parent umbrella, and under cannabis you have a marijuana plant and a hemp plant. So industrial hemp is what is federally legal in all 50 states. That's why I can sell my products to all 50 states. I can ship it, I can put it in my storefront, and industrial hemp does contain trace amounts of THC. Now, some of that will vary. So I think Texas, for example, we're kind of getting close to medical cannabis, and I think it's up to 0.5%. So there's some dispensaries potentially popping up. I just saw some stuff opening up, but it's kind of like a rogue thing. So it's usually less than 0.3% THC is considered federally legal under the hemp conversation. Marijuana now usually has anywhere from more than 0.3 to I've seen as high as 19, 21, 22% THC. And again, from what I've learned, the higher percentage of THC in the plant, the less present CBD is. It's kind of like you only have, kind of like one tube, and the more that one goes up, the other one has to go down. So in marijuana, that CBD percentage can vary. So people come into our shop and they're always asking, well, where is this, what kind of plant is this? What is it? Is it marijuana? Is it hemp? Everything that we are talking about and selling legally in the state of Texas and beyond is coming from industrial hemp. And yes, THC is present in that product. Now, in a full spectrum product, just using hemp, full spectrum means full plant. So the way that I look at that is THC is present, as are a handful of other cannabinoids. There's over 160, sometimes I hear people say over 200. The point is it's over 5. There's a handful of cannabinoids. THC is one of them, CBG, CBD, CBN. Those cannabinoids all have varying properties, but THC kind of being a component is present in the product even though it's a trace amount. In an isolate product, you're removing all those cannabinoids and you're just isolating out CBD. In addition to that, you're also removing those terpenes. So I don't know if you guys know what terpenes are, but terpenes are not exclusive to cannabis. They're actually found in pine trees and citrus fruits and things like that. Pinene, limonene, those are aspects of cannabinoids that can add effects to how you're feeling when you're consuming cannabis products. So some people argue that full spectrum is more medicinal because it's the full plant. I like to coach our customers that it's your body, you should know what's going in it. It is a trace amount of THC. Sometimes some brands will say it's THC free. I'm sorry, it's not. It's a trace amount. It's present in the product for a reason. Otherwise, it would literally not be in the product. And while it's a trace amount, could you fail a drug test? In my honest opinion, I think you could. Depending on how much you're consuming, depending on how your body is storing fat, it's present in the product for a reason. So in my shop, I carry both isolate and full spectrum for the sole purpose of educating consumers again. I'm not gonna sit here and say that one is better or worse. I know what my body likes because I have access to both products and I've tried both products. I personally take an isolate, not that I'm anti-cannabis by any means. Obviously, I like THC. I admitted to consuming marijuana still presently and actively and happily. But for me, an isolate works in my body, and so we just like to coach our consumers to know the difference between the two products, so that it's ultimately your body, it's your job, it's your lifestyle. An added caveat to that is like I get a lot of truck drivers who want to come buy our CBD products, and they are a little skeptical, concerned. Nurses who want to come buy our CBD products. Full spectrum is something that they're very cautious about, and I get it. I can't sell you a product and say, you're going to be fine, you're not going to fail a drug test, because THC is present. And so those are some things that as a consumer you should navigate, do your research. Again, don't take everything that I'm saying as Bible, but go read blogs, talk to your friends, talk to these shop owners. I think for me that's another thing that when I'm shopping, if I go to someone's website and I can't find who the source is, whether it's me buying from someone else or whatnot, like a couple shops have popped up in Austin, you go to their website and it's like, high quality CBD. We have lab results. And then you're like, where's the About Me section? It's like, we're a group of people who really care about cannabis. Well, who's the group of people? You know, like, where are they? And not that I expect every brand to be like Amos and I, where we're very forward. Like, you go to your Instagram and I see you in it. You go to my business, you see my face in it. So people know who the owners are, the people that are behind the brands. Again, I don't think it's an exclusive thing that needs to happen, but I think it's a really big component when you are dealing in this space where everybody's hot to trot and jumping in the market. Who are these people? And who, you know, what is that? We talk about like the chain of custody of like, where are these things stemming from? Where are these people purchasing their products? How are they getting access to it? And so ultimately trying to build trust with the consumer. So I've unfortunately seen way too many brands, way too many shops say, you know, full spectrum, it's THC free, and I cringe, because that doesn't hurt me necessarily directly, but it hurts this industry that we're trying to build and create. And if you have a bad experience with a product, that makes you less likely to then want to come talk about cannabis in general. So,
you guys have any?
Yeah. So I love the perspectives, and what I'm about to say, I'm prefacing it that we're all on the same page. Like, we're advocates, we're consumers, there's a phrase that says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I'm going to use sushi as the analogy. And I imagine somebody like sushi, right? And you might have a favorite sushi place. I go to Botica at the Pearl. I've been to several sushi places. It's fish. It's just fish and rice, and there's somebody back there generally who is making it and rolling it, and they serve it. But it's not about the sushi per se. And I want you to be thinking CBD as I share this. It's really about the feeling that I get. And it's the feeling that you get is something that can't be promoted or provoked by a website or a flyer. It's something you feel when you walk into a place. And Botica is my place. When I go in, Claudio, who's the GM, always hugs my wife and I. He's Brazilian. Chef Geronimo, he can tell me where the fish came from. I know that after 2 days, whatever the fish is being thrown away. I know that on certain days the fish is coming in. I know who his sous chef is. And it's not about who I know, it's about what they've created. They've created an atmosphere of trust, an atmosphere where they know, kind of like Cheers, they almost know you by name. They just happen to sell sushi. I would never go to a gas station to buy sushi. Some people prefer the gas station for their sushi. I'm not going to blame them. I want you to think about where you can now purchase CBD from the places that Shayda mentioned. Who are these people? Who are they? Why don't I know them? Can the gas station attendant? Nothing wrong with it. This is America. This is a capitalist environment we live in, and I support that. But I'm wondering if the guy behind the counter, who probably has a burrito stain on his shirt, nothing wrong with it. I'm just trying to give you guys the real deal. I don't know if he can answer or she can answer my questions about where that CBD came from. I don't know if they care to. And as such, I don't want to go there. Where I'm going with this is that ultimately the decision is yours. The tactical stuff about COA, the client that walked into Shayda's store with her checklist, you should be doing that. That's called caveat emptor, buyer beware. That's empowering yourself. But the thing that, generally speaking, generally speaking, some people are doing, or some shops or unknowns, is they're not doing it in a way that really promotes caring. They're not doing it in a way that really, I care that you're putting this into or on your body. And I care so much that I can talk to you, I can coach you. I love the word coach. I can coach a client when they walk into my store about the good, the bad, the indifferent. That's the distinction. CBD is CBD is CBD. The molecule is the molecule, period. It's the molecule. It's up to you as to where you want to purchase it. It's up to you. You, honestly, it's you, not us. You control the market, not us. Doesn't matter how cool our branding is, how cool, if Facebook lifts the veil of ad runs, you ultimately control the market. You get to say who the best ones are and who the ones aren't. And I'm going to end this with, I would never buy sushi at a gas station.
Amos, you got anything to add to?
Just on that real quick, because the question was about full spectrum versus like isolate. Just to kind of piggyback off what Shayda was saying, there are a lot of companies out there saying that their full spectrum is THC free, but at the same time, there are some companies that do have a broad spectrum that doesn't have THC. So now you have three terms where you have isolate, which is just CBD. Now you have broad spectrum, which is going to have CBD, other cannabinoids, other terpenes, but no THC. And then you have full spectrum, which is going to have everything that comes from the plant naturally. So like what we do, we just use whole CBD flower. We don't add anything to it. We don't subtract anything to it. It's just what the plant naturally produces. So that would be an example of a full spectrum product. If we did some kind of process to remove the THC, but left everything else, now it's broad spectrum. Then if we completely took out just the CBD by itself, now it's a isolate product, which is a little tidbit in there.
Is there like a shelf life for flower?
There definitely is, but it's very dependent upon like how you store it, the environment. So if I just got it in a baggie, just like out in a room, it's gonna get a lot more stale and less fresh a lot quicker.
Does it lose
really,
does it lose the potency?
It'll just lose its flavors, its potency a little bit. The only time really flour goes bad is when it starts to mold, which has to have a certain environment. But for the most part, it's just not going to be at its peak anymore if you don't store it correctly.
Does anybody know is there shelf life for the oil or t-shirt as well?
There's a shelf life depending on the oil that's used. So a pretty popular type of oil is going to be MCT oil. It's essentially liquid coconut oil. It's basically CBD needs an oil to be absorbed. So there's different types to get into it. There's water-soluble CBD, which technically doesn't need an oil to be absorbed. But most products on the market you're going to see mixed with oil, depending on what that oil is, could have a variable on that shelf life. But also, I would encourage you to look at the types of bottles that are being used. So we use amber bottles because it deflects the light. Where we store things like in our shop, for example, we don't keep any of our products actively out because just of the sunlight. So all of our products are actually kind of under shelving, hidden behind things in the shade, just because over time, I don't think, again, it's that fast of a degradation of the product, but it is a potential attribute by just leaving it in the sunlight. So just be mindful when you're buying your CBD and where you're storing it. I keep mine in my bathroom. People ask me to put it in my refrigerator. I don't personally, but I wouldn't leave your CBD in your car for extended periods of time, especially in the Texas heat, because I think even in being an amber bottle, it could still have, some degradation on the quality of that product.
Right, so kind of flipping back to the business aspect now. So are there, being all founded in Texas and living in Texas, like are there any specific kind of like roadblocks or challenges that a startup would face, a CBD startup would face, opening up and operating in Texas? How do you? Banking.
Open up a bank account.
That's a challenge. I mean, it's hard to answer that question without knowing what it's like to open a CBD company in another state. But I would say the biggest challenge is here in Texas, there's a lot of very strong-minded people. So with that, there are still a lot of people that carry a heavy stigma with the plant, particularly with the smokable forms.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a challenge we got to overcome. But at the same time, there is a lot of support for it too. And then just like most people are experiencing in most states, but here in Texas we are, especially because we're waiting for things to come out, is just the lack of regulation, the lack of guidelines. We truly are pioneering an industry in this area of the country, in Texas, and with that comes not knowing what the way forward is. We have to kind of just like assume or guess or hope that what we're doing as far as like marketing or sourcing or whatever it may be, any aspect, we have to just kind of take it at our own discretion and like communicate with each other. Like right before we started, we were talking about your issues that you were having with the paraphernalia, and it's like, this is how we get through it. We talk to each other about it because we don't have a government regulatory entity to ask, is this okay? Should I do it this way? Should I not do it this way? That doesn't exist right now. A lot of people will ask me, how much is the license to sell CBD? Like, there is no license. Like, how old do you have to be to take CBD? Like, technically, there isn't an age. We could sell a joint to an 8-year-old kid, technically, and it's not illegal. Of course, it's unethical in my opinion, but legally, there is no guidelines on this. And so, right now, I would say in Texas, that's probably the biggest thing, especially since we're like in this intermission period where like now it's officially legal here, but we still have no guidelines on it.
So I like that you were lighting your hemp joint right outside before that. I was thinking that's going to draw people in, but that too, it seems like I've been reading articles where sometimes by county, kind of police forces are a little bit more strict than other counties. Like, have you guys come across like any kind of like brushes with the law here in Texas?
So I haven't here in Texas. I recently had an interaction with the DA in Oregon, but here in Texas, I want to share a quick story. Matt, who's a founder of a local CBD company here in San Antonio, it's called Fortitude. He had purchased some joints for us to sell at an event in Marfa, I think. Say Marfa?
Yeah.
And he was selling, CBD joints to people, and this is, West Texas, small town. They're not as up to date with the laws and the culture and the trends. And the sheriff's office came and confiscated his joints, and they tested them. And unfortunately, here, really across all states, the field test for law enforcement is only a positive or negative for THC. And so a legal hemp product that even has 0.1%, which is still under the legal limit of 0.3%, is going to test positive. And so they confiscated the joints from him. They didn't arrest him or do anything like that, but that's something happened here in Texas. When my partner and I, Mike, were traveling to Oregon just a few weeks ago, when we landed 20 yards off the plane, there was a DEA task force waiting for us, and they knew me by name. So it was a premeditated search, and basically they just saw that I was coming to a recreational state where there's high amounts of illegal marijuana coming out of it, and I have a felony possession charge of marijuana from 2013. I'm a minority, I have long hair, I'm in the cannabis industry. I fit the type of dude that you just want to stop and search to see if you're trafficking illegal marijuana. So they stopped us and they searched us, and that's the thing, is like, if you're operating legally, you have no worries. So I had no worries at all. I'm like, cool, I get to high five the DEA and like say what's up to these guys and let them just search my bags. And what I did, I'm like, this is a marketing opportunity, let me just start recording. Because I'm doing everything completely legal, I have nothing to worry about. And this also needs to be shown because these are some of the things that we still have to deal with as minorities and just cannabipreneurs in general. We get targeted, and it is what it is. But at the same time, this is one of those things that I wasn't surprised, right? This is what comes with the territory. It's like, I expect these things, just like I expect to have trouble with a bank, and I expect to have trouble with a merchant processor. I expect to get stopped when I'm smoking a joint on the street. And that's part of it, right? Like, that's how I'm going about making this change, and my brand is going about making this change, is by being ready for those situations and then being ready to educate in those situations. So when the DA stopped us, they're asking why we're here, and I told them exactly why we're here. I'm here to visit a hemp farm and get hemp flower by the pound, just like I would get marijuana. But it's not marijuana, it's under 0.2%. It's completely legal in all 50 states. I can ship it to Texas, I can ship it out of Texas, and as long as I'm operating within the federal farm bill, I have nothing to worry about. So there definitely are, we're transitioning out of prohibition. You see my shirt here, RIP Prohibition. We're right in the middle of the death of prohibition, and there's history happening before our eyes. Even events like with Rick Estoni and with brands that Shayda's creating, we are all making history together, not only as individual brands, but then as a community, and that's really cool to be a part of and to capture.
So that's a great segue to my next question I have. Just in your opinion, and flipping over to medicinal marijuana and the state of Texas, how far, you know, in Bill's opinion, how far do you think we are? How many years or a decade far away? Or I know that I think I read something where they just barely kind of expanded the compassionate care program just very slightly, but I'm just curious if you guys have any insights or opinions on that.
I think it's going to happen federally first before it happens in the state of Texas, unfortunately. But I think what's happening federally is moving pretty quickly. I think to your point, being in it sometimes you feel like it's never ending, but I think it's happening. I mean, as a born and raised Texan, I didn't even think that I'd be able to ever be owning a business in cannabis in the state. So I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard so far. But yeah, unfortunately, when you look at the laws, they just, on the Compassionate Care Act, they expanded it to a few more different ailments or things like that it would expand to. They opened up licenses 2 weeks ago. I don't know if they closed it because they had too many licenses or what the happening was with that, but they pulled that back. So basically, to sell products under the Compassionate Care Act, you have to have a license. So different than how we're operating, I don't have to have a license right now to sell the 0.3%, but if I wanted to sell the 0.5%, which is what's under the Compassionate Care Act, I'd have to apply for a license, which when I looked at it, it was like $70,000 to apply. It was $400,000 for every 2 years to maintain the license. I had to produce that I had like on-site security 24/7, like certain things had to be, you know, checked off before my application would even be approved. So I think there's just a lot of concern in the state of Texas, I think just based on what we've kind of addressed in this panel so far. We're Texas, you know, for better or worse. And I think we've made a lot of progress. It just, unfortunately, I don't think is going to lead us to a sweeping marijuana cannabis reformation anytime soon. So that's my 2 cents.
Cool. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, what gives you the optimism on federal laws?
I think, how many states are legal now? There's 12?
Yeah, 12 or 13.
12 to 13. I am optimistic on a federal level because I just see how much change is happening in these states that have legalized it. I don't know if it's enough for the state of Texas, for example, to go say like, yeah, let's go ahead and like jump on the bandwagon with that too. But I think when you're looking at it from a pain perspective, I mean, a lot of the drive for the cannabis conversation coming to the forefront, in my opinion, again, is really around children with epilepsy. And when you're looking at the children and the medication that our society is being prescribed on a daily basis, it's pretty astounding. You talk about the opioid crisis, the epidemic. I don't think that we can continue to ignore it for much longer. And so it just leads me to believe that on a federal level, we're going to have some sort of change happen sooner than later.
I'm going to open it up to other questions too. We have about a little over 5 minutes left. If anybody else has anything they'd like to ask the panel. Yeah, go ahead.
It might be kind of technical, but in my research, I'm trying to understand the different extraction methods, CO2 versus ethanol. Can you speak to that? Is one better than the other, or what should we as consumers look for?
I think CO2 is positioned as a pinnacle a cleaner extraction process. I've been to I go to a lot of shows and we ask a lot of people, you know, butane, ethanol. Some people argue that those really aren't that bad for you. But again, I think part of it is actually looking at the test results of if it's like, they all have to have some sort of extraction. I mean, I think when you look at CO2 extraction, it's cleaner, but it still is dirty in terms of extraction. So I think that's where we're looking at test results to see if there's any chemicals left over or traces of anything. And so those can be picked up when you're asking these brands for their test results. We use CO2 extraction. We've been pro CO2 extraction for as long as we've been in the industry, but I've also heard some of the other types of extraction are actually not that bad. And so again, I think you as a consumer need to do the research to decide what you want to ultimately put in your body. There's Amos, maybe you're familiar with this too, but like I met some farmers who were just like literally compressing the plant and extracting that way. I don't think it's super popular. I don't know if it's from a financial perspective, but there are different ways that don't even, require some of these metals
Is
and
it one
gases.
more labor intensive than the other?
They all have their pros and cons.
Yeah.
So when it's done correctly with any of the extractions, whether it's ethanol or butane or CO2, there will be no trace amounts of it in the finished product when it's done correct.
Okay.
But each one has its own pros and cons, but it depends on what they're extracting for, what the finished product they're trying to create is going to be turned into. That carries a lot of weight, and also what types of molecules they're trying to extract. It's a pretty complex discussion.
Yeah.
Because I know you're speaking from the consumer end, like as a consumer, what type of extracted product should I have? And if it's done right, it really shouldn't matter if it's done right, and that goes back to the lab results and making sure there isn't residual, in there. But then when it comes to the processor side, each one of these are they're similar processes, but then they're different. So the timing of different things or different solvents changes the process and the timing of it all. And so it all depends on, it's very situational for the processor, what the finished product they're trying to create. So like somebody who's trying to create a tincture, what Shayda was referring to is called a rosin press, where literally you can just take a bud and it looks like just two metal plates, and it just squeezes the bud under extreme pressure and also applies heat. And when it comes back up, now you have like an oil. Looks like a dab is what it's commonly referred to as, and it's usually, that method is a solventless method because it doesn't use any chemicals to extract. But it's not going to be an efficient method for producing mass amounts of tinctures or topicals and things like that. So it's kind of complex, and so it's really going to determine on like what type of product you're purchasing, and then just getting the lab results and researching that and asking the brands you're buying from, the people that you're buying from, and kind of touching on what Rick has already touched on. You want to buy from brands that are people, not just brands. So ultimately, you want to buy from people that are building a brand. You don't want to just buy a product, and just because it is that product, like Shayda mentioned, if you see her on her brand, you know when you buy a Restart, you're buying from Shayda, and you want to be able to know that. And then that way, when a question like this comes up, there's an actual relationship, and that's the key.
Yeah, we'll do one more.
Just a quick question. You guys brought up a lot of good points, and I just wanted to know, since we are in the great state of Texas, what things or efforts are you all doing at the state level to ensure that, the effort is moving in the right direction? Like, for instance, I hate to throw the word lobbyist out there, but you get where I'm going with it. Essentially, speaking to the right people and moving in the right direction instead of just waiting for the explosion to happen.
I lobby. I live in Austin, so it's a little bit easier for me to get there, but we did a lot of lobbying days. I'm also part of a lot of organizations, so HIA is kind of the Hemp Industry Association on a national level. They're not super active locally, but that's a great one if you're involved in the CBD side. Again, in Austin, we have access to Texas NORML, Texans for Marijuana Reformation. Some people can have separate, views. They don't want to combine the two, but I think that it's cannabis, so we should talk about all of it. And so just being involved actively, those groups meet up, they organize lobby days, we actively go to the Capitol, and then because of the brand and the platform that we've built, I pass on that information to my consumers. I say, hey, I'm gonna be at the lobby, I'm gonna be at the Capitol this day, we're lobbying, who wants to come join? Or, hey, you don't live in Austin, you live in San Antonio, you live in this district, like figure out who your district representatives are, here's a link to a website that can help you find out, here's a canned message that you can send to them. Like getting people excited to find benefit with cannabis is kind of the foundation of our brands. That's why we care about the quality of ingredients and the access to information and resources and this consultative coaching approach. But the goal is when you have a positive experience with my brand that you feel motivated to then share, be active, get other people involved. I mean, that's really how it works in my opinion. I can't just be like, yeah, this is great, and like, I'm gonna go change the world. It's like, I want then you guys to feel empowered because it's your vote at the end of the day who's gonna ultimately help change the state of Texas. And so we use our platforms to absolutely go do that. So I don't know. I like to be involved.
Something else is that beyond actually going to Austin or DC or Sacramento or whatever is. And we all have different positions in what we do. So I sit on the board of directors of the HEB School of Business, and we actually had our semi-annual meeting what's today? Wednesday? Thursday?
Thursday.
This week, I forget. This week. A few things. I'll point out a few things. On that board are some people who own a big tractor company. You know their name, also affiliated with the sports team. A very large car conglomerate, TV commercials. In other words, these are people with influence. And the conversation in this School of Business board meeting for UIW, alma mater, was how do we get an incubator for cannabis companies? And it wasn't just about talking about it, it was really that the people who are at that table are going to take that message out and say, we're talking about this in a Catholic university with a major presence, starting a cannabis incubator here. It's a possibility. And there are also the nuns there who actually make the big decisions at UIW still. And of course the deans. The point is that these people have direct access to the people that we go to lobby for or against. And so I like that approach because I'm in that circle. I can talk to the whole, so I can talk to the NCRs and the people there and say, cannabis is legit, it's real. And then ironically and funny, but one of the nuns, I'll not name who she is, talked about how it's become a part of her life. And that's the beauty of the conversation really, just by bringing it up, people have their story. But the second thing is education, but really to what we talked about earlier is our conference this Saturday. It's Texas's largest to date. There will be bigger, but to date will be the biggest. And we'll have San Antonio Normal as a speaker there, and they're going to talk about the actual lobbying efforts and what they're doing. Xander will be a speaker. And it's an opportunity for us, people here, to actually go and talk about this in a real tactful way, you know? So yeah, we can go to Austin, we should. But we should also be doing it at the very grassroots level. Talk to your communities, the people in your circles, because they're going to go tell somebody. Remember, several thousand years ago, one man with a beard in the Middle East had 12 buddies, all disciples, changed the world. One guy with 12. There's 3 with arguably 30. There's no reason why we cannot change the world right now as a result of this conversation. No reason. No reason. Think about that. One man with 12 buddies changed the world. Thousands of years later, those conversations are now in a book, and they happen every single day. There's no reason. If there is, please somebody bring up the point why we cannot impact and affect that change as a result of this conversation today. None. Take it to Austin yourselves. Come to the conference on Saturday. Email people. Get involved. Do something. The power is today. That's the beauty of where Texas is. The power is still in our hands, not in the legislators' hands. If you're in California, good luck. Oregon, good luck. Any other state that's rec legal, good luck. The opportunity is beautiful right now. The golden opportunity is that we have the power. Us, right now, in this room.
Cool. All right, so we're at time, and Rick, I love that you went biblical there at the very end. But like Rick mentioned, all of us, we're going to be at that Green Seed event this Saturday at the North Conference Center from 11 to 6 p.m. all day. You can meet a bunch of other local brands here in San Antonio, a lot of educational. There's like 20 or so speakers that are in that lineup, and like we mentioned, there's free tickets available. I have, as a sponsor, I have some like premium tickets if you guys want to see me. We'll stand right outside right here on the sidewalk too afterwards, because I know the next session has to come in. But I want to thank you all for attending. I want to thank San Antonio Startup Week for having us as the first cannabis startup track here. Hopefully so again, thanks guys.